Hi golfers, Nick here from American Golf. I'm down at the AP3 store today, and today I have with me AP2, AP3. So the new Titleist 718 range. I'm doing a head-to-head. I had a question recently on YouTube asking me what is the difference, can you do a head-to-head? So I thought take this opportunity to do that. So I'm going to hit 10 shots of both clubs, take a look at some of the numbers. I'm expecting longer distances with AP3. It's obviously slightly bigger head, so it should be a little bit more forgiving. So we're going to look at sort of dispersion as well. So we'll just be looking at a few different stats like ball speed, smash factor, distances, height as well. I've got with me the sort of stock shaft for AP2, which is the AMT S300. So I'm going to be using that shaft in both heads. So try and give myself some sort of consistent sort of data as much as possible. So I'm using the TrackMan Pro V1 golf balls, 10 shots of each. I'm going to sit down afterwards and take a look at some of the numbers. So first up, we've got Titleist AP3. Okay, so next up we've got AP2, 10 shots. Is this what we've learned? The things we taught, what we forgot. It's what we deserve. The things we lost, what we couldn't stop. Is this what we've learned? The things we taught, what we forgot. It's what we deserve. So you see me hit a few shots there on the TrackMan. First of all AP3, then AP2. Just before we take a look at some of that data, first of all, AP3 is 31 degrees compared to 34 degrees in AP2. AP2 is forged, whereas AP3 is cast. So in terms of the feel, I think AP2 was a better feel for me. Obviously there's a little bit more technology in AP3. They've got a little bit more weight at the bottom, which is to help launch the ball, which is probably why they can give this a stronger loft, which does equate to more distance, which we'll look at in a second. But behind the ball, there isn't much difference in looks. When you put the head side to side, you can see AP3 is a fraction longer, and from behind you can see it's a slightly bigger at the bottom, but there's not much in it. If you take these clubs separately, they look very similar behind the golf ball, but slightly better feel for me for AP2. So let's take a look at some of the data. I'm going to put the data up on the screen here so you can see it. First of all, let's take a look at the ball flight from down the line. So I've got the AP3 up here first, which is the white ball flight compared to the yellow, which is AP2. So for me, a lot more shots missed to the left with AP3. I think that's down to slightly more offset. So I prefer less offset personally, but AP3 does have a slight more offset than AP2. So going to get a bit more draw with AP3 is what I would say, but depends on that individual, how they hit the golf ball. Looking at AP2, I would say a little bit tighter, more balls finished closer to the target line. So if we look at the side angle ball flight, you can see with the white, which is AP3, compared to the yellow of AP2,
You can see a slightly tighter dispersion with the yellow, which is AP2. So for me, better or more consistent trajectory with AP2 over AP3. And obviously if you look at the dispersion from on top, you can see the yellow ring obviously a little bit tighter compared to the white one of AP3. So overall you can see on the graphic there, longer with AP3, but obviously a bit tighter dispersion with AP2. So let's take a look at some of those numbers in a bit of detail now. So ball speed, first of all. Ball speed was 118.9 with AP2 compared to 121.1 with AP3. So I was expecting faster ball speed with AP3, which it did suggest that. Obviously my club head speed was virtually the same, but ball speed was faster, obviously due to a lower loft, and because of that the launch angle was 18.2 compared to 19.4 with AP2. So lower launch angle, faster ball speed. There was also lower spin rate with AP3, which is what I was expecting. So that combination of faster ball speed, lower launch, less spin equates to a bit more distance. So there was about 5 yards difference in distance with these two 7-irons. So AP3 is about 5 yards longer compared to AP2. Taking a look at smash factor was slightly higher with AP3, which you'd expect. Smash factor is a difference between club head speed and ball speed. So even though I swung those clubs virtually the same speed, there was a higher ball speed with AP3, which equates to a higher smash factor, just slightly. The height was very similar on average, but you can see definitely the trajectory is a lot tighter with AP2. Now taking a look at the side angle, so this is where on average where the ball finished in relationship to the target line. With AP3 it finished just over 10 foot to the left of the centre line, compared to with AP2 it finished around about 5 foot to the left of the centre line. So a little bit straighter for me for AP2, less shape on the ball for me with AP2. So it obviously does depend on the individual. I think if you're looking for a bit more forgiveness, a bit more distance, a little bit more draw, I would say AP3 is a good one. But if you're looking for a bit more control, if you're a very consistent ball strike, if you're hitting this club out the middle every time, then I would say AP2 is going to give you a tighter dispersion. You're going to get less shape on the golf ball, but you're not going to get necessarily the distance you'd get from AP3, but you're probably going to get a better ball flight. If you're a consistent ball striker, I think AP2 is probably the best one for you. It's forged, feels great. AP3 does feel good, but for me it just didn't quite get the same consistency in the ball flight as I got with AP2. So for me, AP2 is the winner. Much better ball flight in terms of direction, less variance from the centre line, less shape on the ball, and obviously trajectory control much tighter with AP2. So obviously it does depend on the individual, what you're looking for. Consistent ball strikers, I think AP2. If you're slightly inconsistent and you're prone to some toe and heel strikes, slightly bigger head with AP3, then that's the one you want to go for. But both look great and they both feel great, but for me AP2 is the winner. So golfers, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. I'll be interested to hear your thoughts if you've tried these clubs out. It's great to do the head-to-heads. I'm going to be doing some more, so if you've got any clubs you want me to compare, post your message in the box below and I'll try and do those over the coming weeks. So golfers, hope you enjoyed the video and we'll see you again soon.